Have you ever received a message that turned an ordinary day into a heart-pounding nightmare? For Anna, a 22-year-old who found comfort in the quiet aisles of a bookstore, a single, cryptic text message from her best friend was about to shatter her world. My name is Anna. I'm 22, and my life is a simple one. Spent in a small town with my mother and my younger brother. Spent in a small town with my mother and my younger brother. My days are filled with the scent of old paper and fresh ink at the local bookstore. A job I adore because books have always been my most faithful companions. But one particular day, the story of my life took a dark and unexpected turn. It began on a dreary, rain-soaked morning. I woke to the rhythmic drumming of water. Against my window pane and reached for my phone. A message glowed on the screen. A beacon in the early morning gloom. It was from Maya, my best friend. The words were stark and alarming. Anna, please come to the airport today. I need you. 12 p.m., Terminal 3. That was it. No explanation. A wave of confusion washed over me. Why the airport? A wave of confusion washed over me. Why the airport? What kind of trouble was she in? My immediate instinct was to call her, to hear her voice, but my calls went straight to a cold, impersonal voicemail. Her phone was off. A glance at the clock sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. It was already 10 in the morning. I had a mere 2 hours to get there. There was no time to waste. I threw on a pair of jeans, a familiar pink jacket, and snatched my umbrella. I found my mom in the kitchen, suitable for audiobooks, as I hastily explained the situation. I have to go to the airport. Maya needs help. My mom, ever the worrier, simply said, "Be careful, Anna." Her words echoed in my mind as I stepped out into the cold, wet world. The bus was a microcosm of the city's frantic energy, crammed with damp strangers. I stood for the entire journey, clutching the overhead rail, my gaze fixed on the dreary world outside. The sky was a vast canvas of gray, and in the distance I could see the metallic glints of airplanes. Ascending into the clouds, each one a vessel of 1,000 different stories. When I finally arrived, the airport was a chaotic symphony of human experience. It was enormous, a sprawling terminal filled with the roar of announcements, the rush of people pulling suitcases, and a cacophony of languages. Suitable for audiobooks, commercial voiceovers. The rush of people pulling suitcases, and a cacophony of languages. I felt like a small boat in a vast ocean as I searched for Terminal 3. It took a frantic 10 minutes to locate it, my anxiety mounting with every step. But when I reached the designated meeting spot, an emptiness greeted me. Maya was nowhere to be seen. I waited. 10 minutes stretched into 15, then 20. Each passing moment felt like an eternity. And a knot of nervousness tightened in my stomach. Where could she be? My eyes scanned the bustling crowd, searching for a familiar face. That's when I saw her, a young woman sitting alone by a large window. Her shoulders shaking with silent sobs, a suitcase resting by her feet. Like a forgotten friend. Drawn by an instinct I couldn't explain, I approached her cautiously. "Are you okay?" I asked softly. "Are you okay?" I asked softly. She looked up, her eyes swollen and red from crying. "I missed my flight," she choked out, her voice thick with despair. I don't know what to do. I sat down beside her. The urgency of my own situation momentarily forgotten. "My name is Anna. Maybe I can help." Her name was Sarah. She had traveled from another city to visit her father, but a series of delays had caused her to miss her plane. The airline had already closed the gate. I offered her the bottle of water from my bag, a small gesture in the face of her immense disappointment. We began to talk, and I discovered a gentle kindness in her. "You're a good person, thank you," she said, a faint smile gracing her lips. It was in that moment of connection that my phone buzzed to life. The caller ID flashed Maya's name. I answered instantly. "Anna, where are you?" She cried, her voice laced with panic. "I'm at Terminal 3, just like you said. I've been waiting for you." A choked sob came from the other end. "Oh no, Anna, I'm so sorry." "I meant Terminal 2. I'm here, and I'm so scared." "Please, you have to come fast." My blood ran cold. I said a hurried goodbye to Sarah, promising to check on her later. And then I ran. I raced towards Terminal 2, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. When I finally burst into the correct terminal, the sight before me made my breath catch in my throat. Suitable for audiobooks, commercial voiceovers, at roughly 1.5 times the normal speed. The sight before me made my breath catch in my throat. Maya was huddled on the floor, her face buried in her hands, crying. Maya, I shouted. Her head snapped up, and a look of profound relief washed over her face. She scrambled to her feet and ran into my arms, suitable to me as if I were a lifeline. "Anna, I didn't know who else to call." "I'm so scared," she whispered into my shoulder. I held her tight, trying to project a calm I didn't feel. Suitable for audiobooks, commercial voiceovers. What happened? Talk to me. What she told me next was utterly shocking. "I think," she began, her voice trembling, "I think someone is following me." I pulled back, searching her eyes for any sign of a joke, but found only pure terror. "Who? Why would anyone follow you?" I asked, my mind racing. "I don't know," she stammered. "On the bus here? I noticed a man staring at me. When I got off, he got off too. I ran inside the terminal, trying to lose him in the crowd. Hoping I was just being paranoid. I tried to reassure her. "Maya, look around. This place is packed. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe you're just on edge." "No," she insisted, shaking her head vehemently. "I saw him again, just a few minutes ago, over at the coffee shop." Her eyes darted around the terminal, and then she froze, her hand gripping my arm like a vice. "That's him," she whispered, pointing discreetly. I followed her gaze. Standing near an exit was a man in a black cap and a long brown coat. He was seemingly engrossed in his phone, but there was a stillness about him, an unnerving watchfulness. That sent a shiver down my spine. My hands grew icy cold. "Stay right here," I said, my voice firmer than I felt. "Stay right here," I said, my voice firmer than I felt. "I'm going to talk to him." But before I could take a single step, the man looked up, his gaze sweeping directly over us. He held our eyes for a fraction of a second, then turned and calmly walked away, melting back into the river of travelers. We stood frozen, watching him disappear. "Do you believe me now?" Maya asked, her voice barely audible. "Do you believe me now?" Maya asked, her voice barely audible. I could only nod, the words caught in my throat. We found a pair of empty seats and sat in a heavy silence for several minutes. The reality of the situation was beginning to sink in. The reality of the situation was beginning to sink in. "We have to tell the airport police," I finally said, breaking the silence. We made our way to the help desk and recounted the entire story to an officer, who listened with a serious expression. "Don't worry," he assured us. "We'll check the security cameras." We felt a sliver of relief. Suitable for audiobooks. "I'm so lucky to have you," she said. I nudged her gently. "Next time, just tell me the right terminal." We shared a brief, fragile laugh, but the feeling of unease lingered. Why was he following her? Was it truly a random, menacing act? Or was there something more sinister at play? "Let's go home," I said. "But we have to be vigilant." She nodded in agreement. We stepped outside. Into the persistent drizzle. I opened my umbrella, a small shield against the dreary world. We hailed a taxi, and as we settled into the back seat, my eyes scanned our surroundings one last time. And then I saw him. Through the rain-streaked window, I saw the black cap, the brown coat. The man was standing there, watching us. My heart leaped into my throat. The taxi pulled away from the curb. And the man with the black cap remained, a stationary figure under a tree. His gaze locked onto our vehicle. "Maya," I whispered, my voice trembling. "He's still there. He saw us leave." Maya turned to look, and a gasp escaped her lips. As she saw him too. The color drained from her face, her eyes wide with fear. "Do you think he'll follow us?" she asked, her voice shaking. "I don't know," I replied, my mind racing. "But we're not going home. We have to be smart." I leaned forward. "Driver, can you please take us to the main city mall instead?" The driver nodded, unfazed, and changed course. As he did, I risked a glance behind us. The driver nodded, unfazed, and changed course. As he did, I risked a glance behind us. A black car that had been parked nearby pulled out and turned, following our path. A deep chill ran through me. "Maya, that car, it's him. He's driving." Panic began to set in as Maya looked back, confirming my fear. Panic began to set in as Maya looked back, confirming my fear. "It was the same man. Why is he doing this?" she cried. "I don't even know who he is." I had no answers for her, only a growing sense of dread. We reached the mall, a beacon of bright lights and bustling activity. We paid the driver and hurried out, plunging into the safety of the crowd. But our relief was short-lived. The man parked his car and entered the mall. Right behind us. We walked faster, weaving through shoppers, our hearts pounding. We ducked into a shoe store, then a clothing shop, but every time we glanced back, he was there, a relentless shadow. "He's still coming," Maya panted, tears welling in her eyes. I grabbed her hand. "We have to find a security guard." Now, we spotted an officer near the main atrium. "Sir," I said, my voice urgent, "there's a man following us. Please, you have to help." The guard's expression turned serious. "Can you point him out?" The expression turned serious. "Can you point him out?" We did. Without hesitation, the guard strode towards the man. "Sir, why are you following these young women?" The man looked genuinely surprised. "I'm not following them," he said smoothly. Then, pointing directly at Maya, he added, "She's my sister." "What?" Maya shouted, recoiling. "You're lying." "You need to come with me, sir," the guard said, his tone firm. "You need to come with me, sir," the guard said, his tone firm. The man's facade crumbled, and he tried to run, but two more guards appeared. As if from nowhere, and swiftly apprehended him. The police were called. We sat down on a nearby bench, trembling with a mixture of fear and relief. A kind woman from a nearby kiosk brought us cups of hot tea. I put my arm around Maya, who was shaking uncontrollably. When the police arrived, they led us to a quiet office and asked us a barrage of questions. Piecing together the terrifying events of the day, after what felt like an eternity, an officer returned. "You were right," he confirmed. "He was following you all the way from the airport. He was following you all the way from the airport." "But why?" I asked, the question that had been tormenting us for hours. "But why?" I asked, the question that had been tormenting us for hours. The officer's next words were chilling. He had several photos of Maya on his phone. He also had her full name and her home address. Suitable for audiobooks, commercial voiceovers. He also had her full name and her home address. Maya looked utterly devastated. "But how? Who is he?" "We're still investigating," the officer explained, "but it appears he's a private detective. It seems someone hired him to follow you." A dawning horror crept into Maya's eyes. "No," she whispered, "it can't be him." I looked at her, confused. "Who, Maya?" She looked down at her hands. "My ex-boyfriend. I ended our relationship last month." He was furious. The officer nodded grimly. "That would certainly provide a motive." "We will investigate this lead thoroughly. We will investigate this lead thoroughly." Suitable finally broke down completely, the weight of the day's terror crashing down on her. "I was so scared," she sobbed. I pulled her into a hug. "It's over now. You're safe." Hours later, the police allowed us to leave. Outside, the rain had softened to a gentle shower, washing the city clean. This time, the rain felt different, like a promise that everything was going to be all right. We took another taxi home, and Maya, exhausted, fell asleep on my shoulder. When we arrived, my mom threw the door open, her face etched with worry. "Where have you girls been? I saw on the news there was an incident at the airport." I told her everything, and she enveloped us both in a fierce hug. "You are my brave, brave girls." That night, sleep eluded me. I replayed the day's events in my mind. The cryptic message, the chaotic airport, the kind face of Sarah, the terrifying shadow of the man in the black cap. The terrifying shadow of the man in the black cap. It was a day of profound fear, yet I also felt a surge of pride. I had helped a stranger in need. I had protected my best friend. And I had found a core of calmness within myself even when I was terrified. A week later, a sweet postscript was added to our story. While I was at the bookstore, I heard a voice call my name. I turned, and my heart leaped. It was Sarah, the girl from the airport. Her face bright with a genuine smile. "I found you," she exclaimed. "I found you," she exclaimed. She had remembered the name of the bookstore I mentioned. We sat for coffee, and she told me she had eventually met her father, and was now living in our town. "I don't have many friends here yet," she said shyly. "Can we be friends?" A wide smile spread across my face. "Yes, I'd love that." That day taught me a powerful lesson. Life will inevitably throw terrifying, suitable for audiobooks our way. But in those moments, if we choose to be brave, to help one another, and to remain kind and strong, something beautiful can emerge from the darkness. I went to the airport that day to help a friend, but in doing so, I discovered so much more. I found courage I never knew I possessed. I found a new friendship. And I found my own unshakable strength. If Anna's story of bravery and friendship moved you, show your support by liking this video, subscribing for more incredible tales, and sharing your thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done in her situation? We'd love to hear from you. Your stories are powerful, and they remind us that courage can be found in the most unexpected places. Today, I want to share another story with you. This one is not about heart-pounding fear, but about a quiet, profound connection that blossomed in the heart of a bustling city, all because of a forgotten notebook. This is the story of Leo. Leo was a 24-year-old architecture student who measured his life in blueprints and coffee cups. His world was one of lines, angles, and the relentless pursuit of perfection on paper. He found solace not in crowds, but in the quiet hum of late-night diners. Suitable for audiobooks and dreamers converged under the soft glow of fluorescent lights. It was in one such diner, a cozy establishment named the Midnight Mug, that his carefully structured world was gently nudged off its axis. One rainy Tuesday night, a night much like the one Anna experienced, the diner was nearly empty. Leo sat in his usual booth, surrounded by textbooks and sketches, the aroma of stale coffee and rain-soaked pavement filling the air. He was lost in his work, designing a public library, when he noticed the table across from him. A young woman had been sitting there earlier. Suitable for audiobooks, a half-empty cup of tea cooling beside her. He had vaguely registered her presence, a splash of color from her bright yellow scarf in the otherwise muted diner. Now she was gone, but the notebook remained. He waited. Suitable for audiobooks, commercial voiceovers. Now she was gone, but the notebook remained. He waited. 10 minutes passed, then 20. The waitress cleared the teacup but left the book, assuming its owner would return. But as the clock ticked past 2 a.m., and the rain outside intensified its rhythm against the large plate glass window, a sense of responsibility began to settle over Leo. He couldn't just leave it there. He walked over and picked it up. The cover was smooth, worn leather, its edges softened by time and use. It felt personal, important. Back in his booth, curiosity warred with his respect for privacy. He told himself he was only looking for a name, a phone number, some way to return it. He opened it to the first page. There was no name, no contact information. Instead, in elegant, flowing script, were the words, "This book holds the pieces of me I can't say out loud." A shiver, not from the cold, traced its way down his spine. A shiver, not from the cold, traced its way down his spine. He knew he should close it, take it to the counter, and forget about it. But he couldn't. He turned another page. The notebook was a kaleidoscope of a vibrant inner world. It was a diary, a sketchbook, a collection of thoughts. On one page was a stunningly detailed pencil drawing of a sleeping cat, each whisker and tuft of fur rendered with incredible care. On another, a poem about the color of the sky just before a storm. Interspersed were diary entries, confessions of loneliness in a city of millions, suitable for traveling to far-off places, and sharp, witty observations about the people she saw on her daily commute. He learned that her name was Clara, a name mentioned only once in passing as she recounted a childhood memory. He learned she loved the almond croissants from a small bakery on Grove Street, that she found peace in the city's botanical garden, and that she was struggling in her graphic design course, feeling like her work wasn't good enough. Each page he turned, he felt a deeper connection to this stranger. Her words were honest and vulnerable, her sketches full of life. It felt less like reading a diary and more like listening to a friend's most intimate thoughts. He felt a powerful, undeniable urge to find her, to return this precious part of her world. It was more than just a notebook, it was a piece of her soul, suitable for a sticky diner tabletop. The next day, his own architectural design seemed dull and lifeless, in comparison to the vibrant world contained within Clara's notebook. The mission had taken root. He decided to start with the bakery on Grove Street. The aroma of sugar and warm bread enveloped him as he stepped inside. The aroma of sugar and warm bread enveloped him as he stepped inside. He bought an almond croissant, just as she had described it, and sat by the window, the notebook resting on the table beside him. He hoped by some miraculous coincidence she might walk in. He stayed for over an hour, watching faces, but none of them felt like the Clara from the book. His second stop was the university's art building. He lingered in the hallways, observing the graphic design students as they rushed. He lingered in the hallways, observing the graphic design students as they rushed to and from classes, their portfolios clutched in their hands. He felt like an intruder, a spy in a world not his own. A sense of guilt began to creep in. Was this right? Was this right? To use her private thoughts as a map to find her? He was about to give up when he saw a display of student work. In the corner of one intricate digital painting, he recognized a familiar style. A small, detailed sketch of a sparrow, almost identical to one he'd seen in her notebook. But the artist's name was listed only as C. Jenkins. It was a clue, but not enough. Days turned into a week. Leo's quest became a part of his daily routine. He visited the botanical garden, sitting on the bench she'd described as her favorite, the one overlooking the rose garden. He reread her entries, not as a detective anymore, but as someone who genuinely cared. He found himself rooting for her, hoping she would gain the confidence she lacked, hoping she would see the beauty in her own work that he saw so clearly. The notebook had become his companion, its silent words a constant presence. He felt he knew Clara, yet she had no idea he even existed. The ethical dilemma weighed heavily on him. He decided on one last attempt. He would return to the midnight mug, to the very booth where it all began. He would write a note explaining how he found the book and his sincere wish to return it. He would leave the note with the waitress along with his phone number, and entrust the rest to fate. He would put the notebook away and try to move on. He sat in the diner, the black notebook open before him. He sat in the diner, the black notebook open before him. For what he believed would be the last time. He carefully composed his note on a clean sheet of paper, pouring his respect and admiration suitable for her work into the words. He wrote about how her art had moved him, and how he hoped the book would find its way back to her. Just as he was folding the paper, the diner's bell chimed, announcing a new arrival. He didn't look up until he heard a frantic, quiet voice at the counter. He didn't look up until he heard a frantic, quiet voice at the counter. "Excuse me, I know this is a long shot, but I was here about a week ago. On Tuesday night, I think I might have left a notebook here." A black one? Leo's head snapped up. His heart hammered against his ribs. Standing at the counter, her hands twisting nervously, was a young woman with a bright yellow scarf draped around her neck. Her eyes, wide with a mixture of hope and anxiety, scanned the diner. It was her. It had to be. Taking a deep breath, he stood up, the notebook held carefully in his hands. He walked towards her, his footsteps feeling unnervingly loud in the quiet diner. Suitable for audiobooks, commercial voiceovers. "Clara?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Her eyes widened as she saw the book in his hands. A wave of immense relief washed over her face, so powerful it was almost tangible. "Oh my gosh," she breathed. "You found it. I thought it was gone forever." "It's safe," he said, extending it to her. "I found it here last week. I was just writing a note to leave for you." She took the notebook, clutching it to her chest as if it were a long-lost friend. "Thank you. Thank you so much. You have no idea what this means to me." A blush crept up Leo's neck. "I have to confess," he began, feeling the need to be completely honest. "I opened it. I was trying to find a name or a number to contact you. I read some of it. I'm sorry if that was an invasion of your privacy." He expected her to be angry, to recoil. Instead, she looked at him, a curious, gentle smile gracing her lips. "You called me Clara," she said softly. "That name is only in there once." "I know," he admitted. "I also know you like the almond croissants from the bakery on Grove Street, and that your favorite bench is the one by the rose garden." Her smile widened, a genuine, radiant expression that lit up her entire face. "So you're the detective who's been retracing my steps," she teased gently. The tension in Leo's shoulders eased. "I guess you could say that. I saw your sketches and read your words, and I felt like I had to make sure this got back to you. Your work is incredible." For the first time, she looked down, a hint of shyness in her posture. "You really think so?" "I really do," he said with conviction. "Your perspective on the world is beautiful." She looked up, her eyes meeting his. In that moment, a connection, sparked by a forgotten book and nurtured by a stranger's kindness, solidified between them. "I'm Clara," she said, formally introducing herself. "I'm Leo," he replied, a wide smile spreading across his face. Would you like to get a cup of tea? My treat." "Seems only fair after holding your diary hostage for a week." She laughed, a clear, happy sound that echoed in the quiet diner. "Yes," she said, "I'd love that." And so they sat down in the very booth where he had first found her notebook. But this time, they weren't strangers separated by circumstance. They were two people in a vast, lonely city who had found each other. Through a shared love for art, a stroke of serendipity, and a simple act of doing the right thing. They talked for hours, the world outside the diner window fading into a blur of rain and light. Leo learned that her cat's name was Jasper, and Clara learned about his dream to design spaces that made people feel at home. It was the beginning of a new chapter. Suitable for audiobooks, not in a secret diary, but in the shared moments of their lives. Leo's quest, born from a sense of duty, had transformed into something far more meaningful. He set out to return a lost object, but in the process, he found a kindred spirit. It's a poignant reminder that sometimes the most profound connections aren't the ones we actively seek, but the ones that find us when we simply choose to be kind, to be curious, and to reach out. Sometimes the greatest designs aren't drawn on paper, but are the beautiful, suitable patterns of human connection we build in our own lives. intricate patterns of human connection we build in our own lives. If this story of an unexpected connection resonated with you, let us know by liking this video. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that explore the beautiful complexities of life. And share in the comments about a time a small act of kindness made a big difference to you. We are all authors of our own stories, and every interaction is a chance to write a beautiful line.